Joining me, U.S. Congressman Dr. Paul Broun, who is part of the U.S. Senate race for 2014, the very soon-to-be vacant Saxby-Chambliss seat in the U.S. Senate. Dr. Broun, thank you so much for stopping by Southeast Georgia today.
Boy, I love Southeast Georgia. I've worked in numerous hospitals as a part-time emergency room physician in Douglas and Waycross and all that down y'all's way, so I'm glad to be visiting with you in Baxley.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the comments that were made this week. I think when we look at this race, there's not a lot of people in this race that want to call out Speaker John Boehner on the carpet for the votes, and we've seen the debt ceiling vote and how that went down. You are the one candidate that is making that an issue, and when it comes down to it, there's a lot of people that are not happy with John Boehner and his leadership these days.
Well, you're exactly correct. In fact, when we voted for Speaker for this Congress, I did not vote for John Boehner for Speaker. I thought we needed somebody that had a backbone to stand up to Harry Reid and Barack Obama. And when we had the vote for Speaker, I voted for Allen West. He's a good friend. I knew that he would be a strong speaker, and I thought that we needed somebody who would stand up to this out-of-control big government that both parties have created. And Allen and I sat next to each other on the floor of the House while he was in Congress. Some people have criticized that, saying that he had already lost his election, but a lot of people don't understand that the Speaker does not have to be a member of Congress. So if we had had enough people vote for Allen, he would be Speaker today. We also, let me give you some inside information, we had 20 Republicans who had signed a pledge to each other. All of them are very conservative members of the House. 20 of us signed this pledge to each other that we would not vote for John Boehner to be Speaker. And only 12 upheld that pledge. The reason that the others caved in is because there's a tremendous amount of pressure to go along with the leadership. And only 12 of us stood up to that pressure. Only 12 of us were willing to take on this out-of-control government that both parties have built, and it just has to stop. Bill, we're headed down a road that both parties are leading us down. The policies of both parties are going to lead us to being just like Detroit, Michigan is today if we don't stop this big government. And John Boehner is taking us down that road.
The debt ceiling vote that went down where John Boehner made the sail through and Ted Cruz pretty much stood up against everybody in the Senate. When you look back at that week, what are some of the big things that come to your mind and what needs to happen differently next time the debt ceiling vote comes up for a vote?
Bill, I've never voted to raise the debt ceiling. We must reel in this big government. And you look at all of the issues, whether it's increasing the debt, and our current debt level is totally unsustainable. We're robbing our children, our grandchildren of their money and their future, and it's morally reprehensible, in my opinion, that we're doing so. The out-of-control spending, all the scandals that we see, whether it's Benghazi or the IRS attacking conservative groups or NSA getting all of our phone records and our emails and looking into all those things when they have absolutely no constitutional authority to do so. All the scandals, all the out-of-control spending, the unconstitutional executive orders that this president, but President Bush was not as bad, but still was creating law and regulation against constitutional bounds. All of those things are a reflection of a government that is just too big. All those are symptoms. The disease is big government. And I'm fighting, along with Ted Cruz and others, to stop this big government. We're headed to an economic meltdown of this nation if we don't start applying the limited power or the powers in the Constitution that limits the federal government. We've got our states have become nothing more than administrative bodies of the federal government. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Georgia's supposed to be a sovereign state. Most of the things that the federal government's doing today should be done here in the state. And we've just got to stop creating more debt that is just totally unsustainable. And this debt ceiling vote basically gave Barack Obama a blank check. There are no limits whatsoever to how much the federal government can spend now with this debt ceiling vote. In fact, we've done that, I think, 3 times now. And we've just given a time limit. So we've basically said, here's a a credit card with no limit, and you can go on a shopping spree, but it runs out on a date in 2015 after this year's election. And it's wrong. It's reprehensible, in my opinion, that we've done that. And speaking of Ted Cruz, he, Rand Paul, Mike Lee, the three of those senators, and there's just a handful of us in the House that have been working together on an ongoing basis to try to reel in this out-of-control government. And so I applaud Ted Cruz in what he was doing. He certainly has the backbone to stand up in the Senate, and I'm eager to go join him, because when I get over there, I've already got those friends. For 3 years we've been meeting, trying to stop this out-of-control government, and I will join them, and it'll just add my voice to what Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Mike Lee have been doing.
One of the things that seems to be eating up everything when it comes to big government is Obamacare. You have a plan to replace Obamacare. Why is your plan superior to other plans out there?
Well, Obamacare is just a symptom of a government that's out of control, that's spending too much, taxing too much, regulating too much, borrowing too much, sticking its nose in our business too much. And Obamacare is the epitome of the symptom of the disease of big government, and I've got the cure, and it's the Patient Option Act. And what makes mine different from all the rest of the Republican bills is all of the other Republican bills still have federal bureaucrats making health care decisions for people. We've got to get the federal government out of the health care business. That's what's running up the price anyway. And as a medical doctor, I know what my patients need. As one who believes in limited government, the way to lower the cost of health insurance and all health care goods and services is by getting the federal government out of it and opening up the marketplace. And that's what my bill does. It does some very innovative things. It makes all health care expenses, including insurance, 100% tax deductible for everyone. It allows people there in Appling County or any community to contribute money to a local clinic or local hospital or the health department for indigent care, and it gives people a tax credit for doing so. And if you think about it, what I'm doing by giving a tax credit to take care of indigent patients on the local basis, we're taking money and power from the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., as well as the politicians in Washington, D.C., and putting it where it needs to be, and that's to take care of people that are in need. We've got to have some people in the U.S. Senate who are going to look at ways to send those powers back to the states or the people, and that's what I've been doing for the 6.5 years I've been in Congress, is trying to find ways to get the federal government out of our lives. I want to take the money and the power out of the hands of the politicians and the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and leave it in your hands, in your pockets, so that you can run your life without all this government intrusion. And that's what separates me from every other candidate in this race. It seems like, well, none of them offered any real solutions. All they want to do is treat the symptoms. They want to just a little more efficient big government instead of curing this out-of-control big government, which is the disease.
It's interesting that you just mentioned that, Dr. Broun, because I have followed the last couple of debates that have gone on, and everybody's talking about reforming this, cutting spending, but you have made the point, especially when it comes to the EPA and other parts of big government, is to get rid of it altogether, get rid of the IRS, get rid of the EPA, and there's not a lot of people talking about doing that except you.
Well, that's correct, but like I say, they just want to make us have a little more efficient big government. Right now today, let me tell you, Bill, give you an example. Right now today, we're spending almost $70 billion a year on the U.S. Department of Education. The average salary of those fat cat bureaucrats, most have never taught a child to read, is over $105,000 a year. That's almost exactly twice what an average teacher salary is here in Georgia. I say, let's shut down the Department of Education totally. Let's save those dollars here in Georgia. Let's pay our teachers more. Let's get the government shackles off teachers. And the biggest shackle we have now is Common Core. And the only way we're going to get rid of Common Core and No Child Left Behind and whatever else might follow Common Core is to shut down the Department of Education and let teachers and parents direct the education of their children in our local communities. I want to shut down the Department of Education. While we're shutting down things, let's shut down the EPA also. In fact, we must get the heavy boot off of the EPA, off the neck of our job creators and off our economy. We've got to be good stewards of our environment. There's no question, but the state can do that. The local citizens and the local governments can do that without having us waste billions of dollars on an EPA that's driving up the cost of energy for everybody. That hurts poor people and senior citizens the most. And that's the policies of this administration. In fact, Barack Obama said that his energy policies will, to quote him, necessarily skyrocket. Those are the words he used, necessarily skyrocket the cost of energy. Poor people and senior citizens are going to get hurt the most by his energy policies. We're closing down, the EPA is closing down 15 coal-powered power plants that Georgia Power has here in the state of Georgia. It's putting hundreds of people out of work, and it's driving up the cost of electricity. Poor people can't afford that. I'm fighting for poor people. I'm fighting for working folks. I'm fighting for the middle class. I'm fighting for family businesses. Those folks don't have an advocate in Washington, D.C. I am their advocate, and the best way that we can do that is close down all those things. And the other entity that you mentioned, I want to close down the IRS. The only way to do that is go to a national retail sales tax, a consumption tax, the fair tax, and I'm an ardent supporter of that. We need to stop spending money that we don't have in Washington. Congress must live within its means. We must balance the budget. I've got the strongest balanced budget amendment to the Constitution that's has been introduced in Congress. My jobs bill would create millions of new high-paying, manufacturing, high-technological jobs where poor people and unemployed would have a job. That's the solution to the problems that we have. We've got to stop this big government that's killing jobs, it's killing our economy, it's killing our children, our grandchildren's future, and it's just got to stop, and that's what I'm fighting.
You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of left-wing media outlets trying to attack you, Dr. Broun, but it's interesting. The more they attack you, the more support you get from conservatives throughout the state of Georgia. When you look at all these media attacks, what do you think to yourself, and what goes through your mind?
Well, Bill, when folks are attacked by the liberal media or by even the establishment Republicans, that means that they're fighting for the little guys. They're fighting for the family businesses, those businesses where that you have there in Baxley, Georgia, and Jessup, and in McRae, and Waycross, and Brunswick, and Savannah, and Augusta, and Albany, and places. I know that I'm on the right course, fighting for the good people of Georgia, not for the interest of the Republican Party, not for the interest of these big government folks in the media, as well as in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. So, in fact, I'm the only Republican candidate that the Democrat Party is actually attacking. They're scared of the possibility of my being elected to the U.S. Senate because they know I'm going to be fighting against big government. They know that I understand the disease. The disease is an out-of-control big government that must be stopped. And they know that I believe very firmly in the U.S. Constitution as our founding fathers meant it, which means for people all across the state of Georgia that are going to be looking at who they're going to vote for in this U.S. Senate race, they can understand where I will be going as their senator because they can see where I have been as a congressman. There are 4 questions I ask about all legislation, and all 4 questions have to be yes for me to vote yes. The first is it constitutional according to the original intent? Is it one of the 18 enumerated powers in Article 1, Section 8? The second question, is it right? And by that, I mean, does it fit the Judeo-Christian biblical principles that our nation was founded upon and our founding fathers believed so firmly in? The third question, do we need it? And most of the federal government that we have today, we don't need. We need to get rid of it. And then the fourth question is, can we afford it? We can't afford most of what the federal government's spending money on. And if all four questions are yes, again, is it constitutional? Is it right? Do we need it? Can we afford it? If all four yes, I vote yes. If one's no, I vote no. Now, what I do say yes to is a strong national defense. What I do say yes to is securing our borders. What I do say yes to is sound money. What I say no to amnesty. I say no to greater debt. I say no to bailouts. I say no to earmarks. We've got to stop all those things. And that's what I've been doing as a congressman. That's exactly what I'll do as a U.S. senator. And the liberal media and the establishment Republicans attacking me just shows me that I'm on the right course.
Dr. Paul Broun, Representative Paul Broun, fighting and looking to get into the U.S. Senate, the vacating Saxby-Chambliss seat. And don't forget, coming up May the 20th is the primary in Georgia. So get out there and do your civic duty and vote. Thank you so much for stopping by, Dr.
Let me interrupt you and say,
go ahead.
It's early, so most people don't understand how early that is. And early voting is going to start on April 28th. So we're just right at 2 months away from people casting votes in this U.S. Senate race. And they can check me out by going on my website, which is paulbroun.com. paulbroun.com, and it's B-R-O-U-N. It's Brown with a U instead of a W. My family either can't spell or can't which, but it's B-R-O-U-N. paulbroun.com. They can check me out. They can volunteer. They can contribute. They can sign up for email newsletters. There are links to my Facebook page, Twitter account, and Instagram. They can be a friend on Facebook and repost. They can retweet my tweets and resend all my Instagram messages. So I encourage them to come and join us as an army to take this country back and put us back on the right course that our founding fathers gave us. Both parties are destroying our future. Both parties are destroying our liberty, and I'm fighting for liberty and freedom. I'm a U.S. Marine, and I'm going to continue to fight for liberty and freedom, and I need people to come and help us by contributing, volunteering, and being part of this army to take our country back.
Dr. Broun, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.